pretty without you. Pretty without
what my sound preferences are. I like bass. And if it can have quantity and quality, yeah, I'm rocking it. Especially mid bass. I like the slam over the sub bass rumble. I like my mids super clean. Not a big fan of overly colored, overly thick, overly warm mids. Not a big fan of that. And highs that are very sweet and seem to be able to keep up without ever being overbearing or in your face. So
taking care of myself, haven't done that in forever. No mascara under my eyes since you left with your life. No makeup on my sleeve, now I can't keep it together. I'm so beautiful without you. Now my nails can grow and I bought new shoes. I'm pretty without you. Pretty without you. Pretty without you. Pretty without you. Feeling lonely was hard, but it was all for the better. Taking care of myself, haven't done that in forever. No mascara under my eyes since you left with your life. No makeup on my sleeve, now I can't keep it together. I loved and I lost what's left of my heart. I'm saving for the future. And in the meantime, I'm all for me time, feeling good and looking cuter. I'm so beautiful without you. Now my skin glows and it shines like glue. I'm pretty without you. Pretty without you. Pretty without you. Pretty without you.
hello, today's video is another collaboration I am, and this time it's from Jay from Jay's Audio and Ziigaat! These guys again. Now, I had to apologize. This is the spelled Estrella, but is pronounced Estrella. So if I slip up anywhere in this video, I said it right the first time. Let's jump into this. It is quite pretty. It has a regular shell we see in chi-fi so often, resin shell. It's very flat here, so not a big wing, so it's not one of these semi-custom ones. The nozzle is looks like stainless steel, quite nice. Very sparkly shell. The name Estrella is 4 stars, and it's quite pretty. It's quite nice. It's a bit understated, and I kind of like it. The left and right vents do have a red and blue, so I kind of do like that as well. And the connection is a flush 2-pin. So let's get into it. I'm not using the stock cable, but I'll talk about that. What I want to talk to you about, first of all, let's talk about this driver configuration. So here there is 2 10mm PET. If you don't know what that means, it's a plastic driver, which isn't a bad thing. It's just kind of the driver that they're using, and it can be very well implemented, just like anything. they say they're coaxial drivers. I did try to get clarification from even the man himself, but at the time of the shooting, I have yet. And following Jay's thread, I saw it asked, but I don't think I've ever seen a correct answer. And the reason I ask is, just like anything else, I make mental notes. So if these two drivers coaxially, what does that mean? Does that mean that they were two side by side and they're firing down into the same chamber? Are they stacked on top of each other? Are they those kind of clamshell face-to-face drivers that are being falsely advertised as isobaric design? Not sure. But, and so I like making mental notes of these, because if I like or dislike something, I want to put it in the back of my thing. Oh, beryllium coated drivers. Yeah, stereotyping, but I think I like the sound of, and I do, beryllium coated drivers. The rest of this is, so you got the two 10 millimeter dynamic drivers for the bass. And 4 BAs, and in this case, very interesting choice. So one Knowles BA and one Sonyan 2300 series BA. These two BAs run full frequency according to the lit. And then there is some Sonyan E50 super tweeters. So there is a lot of energy up top and a three-way crossover. So it must be just the dynamic drivers doing bass, the two BAs doing full gamut, and then the two super tweeters. So that's how it looks like it's crossed over. In some of the marketing, and I just want to talk about that, Estrella was, this is from the Ziigaat website, was conceived to be a beast of an IM with almost 15 dBs of sub-bass quantity. I'll address that right now. This set measures on my rig, 68 is peak, 58 was the bottom shelf, so that's 10 dB. And I looked over pretty much everyone else's cheap 711 clone couplers like mine, and we're all getting 10 to 11 dB. So there's a 4 dB difference in that. And since there's no official graph, then I don't think that most of us as reviewers aren't using a professional, except for Crin, testing rig. So what the average person is getting may not be what it's advertised as. This is, regardless of the fact, a fun V-shaped sounding IM. Now I'll tell you straight up on the bat here that this is not my preferred tuning. This is not my jam. And that doesn't make it a bad IM, because in the beginning of this video, you see my preferences. And a couple videos ago, one of my somebody posted on one of my videos, you should really know your reviewers' sound preferences, and I'm very transparent up front of what I like and what IMs I like. So when I say stuff like this, it's not a negative connotation against this IM at all. Now, I don't know Jay's musical preferences. I don't know his tuning preferences, but I can surmise that he likes a whole lot more upper mids and treble than I like. This is his tuning. This is his jam. And this is Jay's Audio's IM. And so for you, Jay, you've achieved your goal. This is what you wanted out of your IM, and congrats on that for sure. I want to touch base one more thing, because I think, and I like this part, that behind the design, a message from Jay's Audio. I want to read it to you because I don't know if it's been out there already. While making it, we wanted to create an experience that is dramatically rich, exciting, powerful, and beautiful, like the word star that Estrella is named after. It has to be an IAM that fully connects with its listener and elevates the joy that music brings. Love it. Even though our earlier prototypes were beasts in their own right, what really separated Estrella was how it made me move with the music. I felt connected, engaged, and I couldn't stop bopping to the songs that came on. I've reviewed and tested over 300 IAMs now, and even then, Estrella still remains a spark of excitement in the mundane. It's a breath of fresh air in the overcrowded, and most importantly, it's the only set I've heard this year that couldn't make me stop smiling. So just like Estrella brought a massive smile to my face, I hope it can do the same for you. Because that's what it's all about, the music. So thank you for adding that in, Jay. Much appreciated. I like seeing that as well. There's not enough behind the scenes when it comes to collaborations. And certainly not the transparency for sure. Now, I'm not a big fan of collaborations, and the fact that I personally don't see how you could stay. It's hard enough to stay subjective in this hobby, but how do you have something that makes you profit from, and still stay? How do you not? Struggling here. How do you not really stay subjective? I don't see how it can be done, to tell you quite honestly. There's always going to be a conflict of interest between your future reviews and your collaboration. So that's just my feelings on in the current state of the hobby right now. So what I want to talk about is some observations. Now, when I say this isn't my jam, it's because, and I'll pull up a graph here, back on track, observations with music. Dancing in the Dark by Lolo. So on lower volumes, and this is the entire problem for me on this set, on lower volumes, it has nice bass drops and fantastic vocals, and it's fun and energetic. But then you turn it up a few steps. Just like Jay had exception when it came to his Cantor review where he said it gave him headaches, this set, quite honestly, makes my ears ring, even on lower volumes. And I don't know if it's the tuning or if it's that Sonyan E50 super tweeters, but that's what I mean. I'm making a mental note of it, that if another set comes up with the super tweeters from Sonyan to do a comparison, is that what's making my ears ring at 10,000 hertz? I'm not sure. I haven't quite figured it out yet. It's very rare that it happens for me, but a couple sets, and the Estrella is one of those sets for me. It just makes my ears ring for hours, even on lower volumes. And when I turn it up, I can only get a few minutes before I gotta turn down the volume or take them out. So there's just something about the upper energy in the treble that it pushes all the wrong buttons for my ears. Now in that song, the upper mids get pushed very forward. Vocals come through so loud and clear, but bass does get pushed back. For me, it gets a little shouty, borderline, actually. I can't listen to the set like that. It's a low volume set for me. Something about the top end on this set, Hammer to Fall by Queen. Again, I just found the Estrella Very fun, very energetic, and very lively. Great for this. Yes, you're totally right, Jay. Will make your head bop. It's just too much upper mids and highs for me to enjoy this set and the playback that it provides. Check, yes. Juliet, We the Kings. At volumes, I just feel that Estrella is information overload. So when I was doing sources, I first had it on my desktop stack, and I'm testing out a new Gishelli Labs J3 Pro DAC with the top of the line AK M4499 and the 4191 chip. And my topping A90D. It's uncolored. Maybe adding a little bit of warmth to it, but smoothing out. It was still not enough. So then I switched over to the Onyx XI1 Alpha dongle, which colors it a bit more yet. And then I was thinking to myself, okay, well, let's keep playing with sources. Let's give this a fair shake. Can N3 Ultra modern tube mode out to the X-Duo XD05 Pro. And that is one of the warmer, still very resolving combinations I have. And to try to color the set. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, is that a fair evaluation for people? Because you might not have all this gear. So let's just evaluate it on probably the most neutral balanced setup I have. And that would have been, for me, a transport, whatever DAC. Then I use the Ibasso DC Elite. And again, the XD05 Pro as my amp. And there maybe is a slight warmth coloration, very, very slight, but everything else stays extremely neutral. I don't have another source that, if I had one, would be one looking at to tame down the top end, to boost up the lower mids, and sub bass, and I don't have a source that does that, or add enough. I would need like a super tube amp or something like that. I'm not sure. Anyway, I don't have a source that did it. So most of my evaluation is done on the most neutral source I have. Okay. Flight of the Cosmic Hippo, Bella Fleck and the Fleckstones. Here, I'm talking about tonality and timbre. So the banjo is missing some of the bite. This is a weird playback. The banjo is missing some of the bite, sort of, because the treble really just takes over too much. In a tonality, a banjo sounds like a banjo, and there's a certain amount of what you can perceive as that banjo sound, the twang, but there's too much of the treble to make it sound really bright, yet not enough of the lower part of that instrument to bring in the weight to make it sound, the banjo sound correct to me. Now, I want to evaluate the bass. Poem of Chinese Drum. This is the track I used by Hawkman Yim, I think 10-12 minutes of drums. This was a very interesting playback too. So the Estrella has a faster decay. It's strange, and I'm not sure what's doing it. Is it the BAs that are bringing up a little bit, or what? So the drum hits, when they hit, you don't get the full texture. They finish too quickly, or the crossover for the two dynamic drivers are crossed over too low, where they're not doing, or whatever configuration. That's why I wanted to know the configuration in that, because it's missing some texture to the bass. It has quantity of bass, but it's missing, for me, the texture of the bass, where it's not letting that note, the drum hit, finish before the next one comes in and layering over top. And that's what I was expecting. That's what I know that this track can do, and the Estrella didn't do that for me. So on the other hand, those two, when they're banging their sticks together, wow, it's like, it's about as you're whack. I mean, it's right there. They were so sharp and so crisp. And I think for me, the Estrella does the quantity over quality. It's one of those metrics that it does for bass. And for my taste, it sounds a bit monotone in the lower bass. Now this set overall has a sub bass focus, yet there is some quantity into the mid bass, and maybe that's the full range balanced armatures doing that with the faster decay. I'm not sure, right? Let's talk about another one and switch speeds here. The Circle of Life by Tina Gao. So strings, right? I'm conflicted on this set. I love the energy of the strings up top, but it's just too much of a good thing. It's too much upper mids and not enough lower mids to balance it off. I don't know if it's the Sonyan E50 Super Tweeters. Whatever it is, I'm just not a fan of the upper end tuning or the combination of those super BAs or the tuning together. I'm not sure what it is. And just touching base back on this set compete with $1,000 sets. Well, the Hype 10 uses dynamic drivers and balanced armatures. That bass was actually very, very good. And it had a ton of top end. Here's a couple more graphs. One comparing the Hype 10, the The Audio, Monarch Mark III, and this set, which I think all come out of the same factory. I think Ziigaat is the OEM for these guys. And this is the difference between $1,000 sets to me and this set, is the ability to balance not just the more energy, but you get a much more polished product. You get much more polished sound and the musical delivery, right? So you can still have all that energy up top, but how it's delivered is the difference, and why a set is $300 compared to a $600 set, $700 or $1,000. So that's my thoughts on that. Now, Mr. Tom Cochran and Red Rider, Avenue A. The guitar is simply superb for details and resolution. Absolutely. Tom's vocals, on the other hand, is missing a bit of tonal weight. So his vocals isn't as deep, or it should take it down timbre-wise, tonality-wise, to add a little bit more weight into his vocals to make it sound a little bit more natural. And definitely a different presentation that I've heard, and I have to praise this set and the fact that it's a bit different from the mundane, as Jay said. It's brilliant. It's forward, and for detail lovers, you are going to rejoice and love this set. Now, let's talk technical details. Randy Rhoads outtakes. I said in another video that you could hear when he shifted his ass on the seat. But in this case, there is so much hyper information. The Estrella does such a superb job on its technical abilities, especially with electric string instruments, a hyper-realistic approach to tuning. But again, there's that trade-off for technicalities over musicality and correct tonal weight and timbre. They just don't sound as natural to me, and you miss out on some of the, you get some hyper details on the strings, but you're missing out, if you know this track, on listening to, you miss that his butt placement, the cigarette drag, that kind of stuff just doesn't sound as natural. Julia, Sixpence None the Richer. One thing Estrella does so well is female vocals. In this track, it still comes through to me too much. Pushed too forward, her vocals, and it pushes a lot of things back, though the bass manages to creep in and carry into the mix, which is quite nice. But I find that, again, it's missing a little bit of the lower mids to add in, and her pitch to her voice is standout, but I don't think it sounds as natural as it could be. So for me, yes, this set is not my jam. At a $300 set, for people who are looking for something like this, a mini Monarch Mark III, a mini Hype 10 on a budget, you're getting some of the tuning DNA, the ideas to get up into there, but maybe not quite as the finesse isn't there to pull it off like you'd pay. Why you would pay more money for those sets is the reason for that, right? But what about, for me, what one do I really like? Well, how about, for me, I really like the Juzzier 61T Butterfly. Now, admittedly, it doesn't have perfect timbre and tonality either, but it's way more my jam. And we'll look at this graph, and just as a Monk 101 to, again, for my preferences, you can see that it has a higher bass shelf and quite a bit more energy into the lower bass and the lower mids. And that adds some warmth and thickness that I find that the Estrella is missing for me. And look at the top end there as well, where you can see that the Estrella keeps going, where the 61T kind of has start having a decline from the Pinagain region. And for me, whatever that is, that makes this set, in the combination with the lower mids and the extra bass, a much more musical sounding set and a lot more balanced for me. The top end isn't overtaking. And that's one of the things I'd like to, at the beginning of the video, again, my preferences, where I say, well, the top end has to have enough sparkle and details. I'm not sure exactly what I said.
Mix and highs that are very sweet and seem to be able to keep up without ever being overbearing or in your face. So,
but it can't be, and it's just too spicy for me to be balanced, and it's just too much up there. That it, again, I can't listen to it long. I can't listen to it past a 10% volume, and I can't listen to it long without or at all really, without my ears ringing for hours. So this set isn't for me, where the 61T definitely is my jam. And doing a comparison like Lolo, back to that original track, I found that between the two, vocals just don't have the same crispness, but I do get a slightly warmer bass and nicer texture to the bass. The 61T goes lower and has a more musical, slower decay. And I think that's because of that the single dynamic driver and the crossover doing more. It's doing more of the work. And I think it's doing a better job of doing it. And as you dial it up, it scales better. Bass comes up just as much as the vocals and doesn't get pushed too forward. And that's one of the things I noticed about the Estrella, is that as you started to dial up, it doesn't really scale like that. It just, the upper mids and treble really get pushed forward to your ears, and the bass seems to not come up as much to balance it off, and that was my observation. Let's go back to one more song here, and The Hammer to Fall by Queen, where the Estrella gives a more forward-sounding presentation. I find in comparison, instrumentals and the backup vocals, which was the interesting things, really take a back seat and don't sound as balanced. When the guitar kicks in at 2 minutes and 8 seconds, the volume went down on the Estrella and went up on the 61T. So we're talking about head bopping enjoyment. For me, the 61T does that, where the Estrella just makes me turn it down. Just too much upper mids again and highs on this set for me to enjoy the playback, where the 61T was, for me, a better listen. Right? We're talking about my bias, my personal preferences, what I enjoy, and the kind of tunings that I do, but I'm also trying to be very objective in my critical review here and listening to what you might expect as well from this set, without a whole bunch of puff pieces being sprayed around, right? Just to conclude, if you have the same library as Jay's Audio, and you have the same kind of preferences, and you like that extra energy up top, or you're a female vocal lover, then I think this set will be for you. And again, it does a lot of things unique, and it's different. And for that, I think overall, Jay put out a set that was his jam, that will work for his library. If you wanted to pick up this set, you should probably get to know more of what his library and genre is, and his playback preferences. And not everybody says that in their videos, and they should, because it doesn't, without that, there's no frame of reference, right? To give you an idea on different sets. You know, mine, for me and my listeners, followers, Monk Army, whatever, you would not, if you share my likes and takes, you won't like this set. If you share Jay's preferences and this kind of tuning, or if you really liked the Monarch Mark III and or the Hype 10, and you just couldn't afford the $1,000 yet, maybe this set is something that you definitely want to consider. But that's it on this set for now. Thank you so much for watching.